All right, so let's dive into some proposed changes to Canada's immigration system.
Okay.
Specifically the asylum system. It's Immigration Minister Mark Miller at the helm of these potential changes. And we're going to be looking at some excerpts from a recent video outlining his statements about this and really kind of digging into what it all might mean for the future of immigration in Canada.
Yeah, this is big stuff for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. I mean, these proposed reforms, they could have a really big impact on a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because, these changes are coming at a time when, immigration is already a hot button issue here in Canada.
Totally. It's like front and center in a lot of discussions.
Yeah, we've already seen some recent moves by the government, like reducing the targets for permanent residents.
Right.
And then they've also tightened the rules around temporary worker permits.
Yeah, feels like there's been a shift.
There has.
Yeah.
And, these new proposals, they seem to be, they're kind of building on that trend toward a more controlled approach to immigration.
It does feel like a real turning point in a way
It does.
for immigration policy in Canada.
Yeah.
So Miller, he hasn't, laid out all the specifics of his plan just yet. But what he has said is definitely got people talking.
For sure.
What are your initial thoughts on his intentions to kind of move toward this more restrictive approach to immigration?
Well, he's stated that he wants to see a more restrictive approach.
Yeah.
And that has, it has some pretty significant implications, for people who are hoping to come to Canada.
Right.
But also for those who are already here and trying to navigate the asylum system.
Right, like those already in the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the big things he's highlighted is that the current system for processing those refugee and asylum claims,
Yeah.
it's just not working. It's fairly overwhelmed. It's inefficient.
Well, and that's leading to some, pretty shocking statistics, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The average wait time for processing those claims
Yeah.
is a whopping 44 months.
It's almost 4 years.
Can you imagine waiting that long?
It's hard to even fathom.
It is. To have your life in limbo like that
Yeah.
for almost 4 years while you're waiting for your asylum claim to be processed. It's really tough.
That's going to be incredibly stressful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the reality for so many people right now.
Yeah. That wait time is really concerning.
Mhm.
What do you think are some of the factors that are contributing to this backlog?
It's a complex situation for sure. But I think one of the big ones is just the sheer volume of claims.
Right, just numbers.
The numbers are huge. Miller recently revealed to the House of Commons Immigration Committee
Oh, wow.
that there were almost 250,000 refugee claims
Wow.
just sitting there pending
Wow.
at the end of September.
Just waiting.
Just waiting. And they've already processed something like 48,000 asylum claims just this year alone.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. On top of that, we're seeing a growing trend of individuals coming to Canada on student visas
Okay.
and then filing for asylum once they're here,
Interesting.
which, it adds to that backlog.
Yeah.
And it also raises questions about, are people taking advantage of the system?
Right. Are they coming here with that intention?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky situation.
So it sounds like, Miller's proposals might target those inland asylum claims specifically.
It seems likely.
Can you explain what those are for listeners who may not be familiar with the term?
Sure. So inland asylum claims, those are made by individuals who are already physically present in Canada.
Okay. So they're already here.
They're already here.
Got it.
Unlike refugee claims, which are typically made from outside the country,
Okay.
inland claims are filed by people who have already arrived in Canada,
Okay.
often on a different type of visa.
Right.
And then they decide to seek asylum once they're here.
Okay.
We saw 635 of these claims processed just between January and September of this year.
Wow. So it's not an insignificant number?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Gives you an idea of the volume we're dealing with.
It's clear that the system's under a lot of strain.
Absolutely.
And, these proposed changes, they're likely going to be met with resistance from some folks.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
We saw that firsthand during Miller's testimony to the House of Commons Immigration Committee.
Right.
Protesters actually interrupted the proceedings.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
pretty dramatic. They had signs that read things like, "Don't deport us," "Don't be racist," "Rights, not cuts," "Status for all." It was a really powerful moment
It sounds like it.
that really underscored just how high the stakes are with these reforms.
Yeah, those protests were a visible reminder of the human impact
Right.
of these potential changes, For a lot of people, these policy shifts represent a direct threat to their hopes of building a new life here in Canada.
Absolutely. One protester even directly confronted Miller, saying, "We are the people you're trying to kick out of this country."
Wow.
It was really intense. Sounds intense.
It really highlighted the fear and uncertainty
Yeah.
that's surrounding these proposed reforms.
Definitely a lot of anxiety out there.
Yeah, and understandably so.
Yeah. And, it's important to acknowledge the concerns of those who feel threatened by these changes.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, Miller is standing firm on his position that becoming a permanent resident or a citizen,
Right.
it's a privilege, not a right. And that extending that privilege to everyone would dilute its value.
Yeah, that's a perspective that's bound to spark a lot of debate.
Oh, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
Would a more restrictive approach potentially harm individuals with legitimate claims who are seeking refuge in Canada?
it's a tough question. There are valid points on both sides.
Yeah.
Miller has acknowledged that fairness is crucial
Right.
and that those who are adhering to the terms of their visas, they need to be respected. It
Right.
seems like the government's trying to strike a balance here. Yeah.
In fact, they're aiming to draw 40% of new permanent residents from people who are already in Canada,
Okay.
which, might suggest that they are trying to address that backlog
Right.
while also managing the overall flow of immigration.
Okay, so it's kind of a multi-pronged approach.
Exactly.
So we don't know all the details of these upcoming proposals, but it's clear that they could really reshape Canada's immigration landscape.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to be really fascinating to see how this all unfolds.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the key areas you think we should be paying attention to as the story develops?
I think it's really important to look beyond the headlines
Okay.
and really delve into the specifics of Miller's proposals.
Right, as they come out.
Yeah, like what specific changes to asylum procedures are they going to implement?
Right. Are there going to be specific criteria?
Exactly. Will there be any measures in place to mitigate the impact on those who have legitimate claims?
Right.
How will the government ensure fairness and balance in its approach? These are all key questions we need to be asking
Yeah,
as we move forward.
absolutely. It's a lot to think about,
It is.
a lot to unpack.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's really important stuff, and it's going to have a big impact on a lot of people.
Absolutely. It's going to be crucial to stay informed and engaged.
Yeah, for sure.
And, it's also crucial to consider the broader context here.
What do you mean?
Well, this isn't just about numbers and policies,
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about people's lives.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
hopes for a better future.
Right.
Many of these individuals, they're fleeing conflict,
Right.
persecution, or economic hardship. They're seeking safety and opportunity in Canada.
Yeah,
Their stories and experiences, they need to be part of the conversation.
absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the policy debates and the statistics and all of that. But we have to remember that these decisions have very real consequences for individuals and families. You're right. It's a reminder that behind those statistics are real people with hopes and dreams and vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
One of the things that stood out to me was Miller's statement about citizenship being a privilege and not a right.
Yeah, that statement has sparked a lot of debate.
It really gets to the heart of what it means to be Canadian.
Right.
And how we define belonging in this country.
It's a question that's been debated for generations.
Yeah,
And it's becoming even more relevant, I think, as we grapple with these proposed reforms.
for sure.
How do we reconcile our values of compassion and inclusivity
Right.
with the need to manage our immigration system effectively?
Yeah, how do we balance the rights of current citizens with the aspirations of those seeking to join our society?
It's a complex issue. There are no easy answers.
It really is. There are so many factors to consider.
Yeah, there are valid arguments on both sides.
Right.
Some people believe that making citizenship easier to obtain would attract talent,
Yeah.
boost our economy. While others are worried about the potential strain on social services and resources.
Right. And some people have concerns about maintaining our cultural identity
Yeah,
and ensuring that newcomers integrate successfully.
those are all important considerations.
It seems like finding that right balance is key.
Absolutely. We need a nuanced approach,
Yeah.
one that considers all perspectives
Right.
and weighs the potential benefits and drawbacks of different policy options.
Okay.
It's not about choosing one side over the other.
Right.
It's about finding solutions that serve the best interests
Yeah.
of both Canadians and newcomers.
And that's where I think the importance of informed public discourse comes in.
Exactly. We need to be having these conversations.
Yeah.
We need to be engaged in thoughtful and compassionate dialogue,
Sure.
considering all viewpoints,
Right.
and really striving to understand the complexities of this issue.
It's about recognizing the human element
Yeah,
at the heart of this debate
absolutely.
and working towards solutions that uphold our values of fairness and justice.
For sure.
What are your thoughts on the role of public perception?
I think public perception plays a significant role
Okay.
in shaping immigration policy.
How so?
Well, politicians are sensitive to public opinion.
Right.
They often tailor their platforms and decisions
Yeah,
to reflect the prevailing sentiments of their constituents.
that makes sense.
So this is where media coverage and public discourse become really important.
Yeah.
The way the media portrays immigration,
Right.
the narratives that are emphasized, the voices that are amplified,
Yeah.
all of that can significantly influence public perception
Yeah.
and, in turn, political decisions.
So it underscores the need for responsible reporting
Absolutely.
and informed public engagement.
Yeah, we need to move beyond sensationalized headlines
Yeah.
and fear-mongering tactics and
Oh.
engage in nuanced discussions that acknowledge the complexities of immigration.
Yeah.
We need to amplify the voices of immigrants themselves.
Right, so they can share their own stories and perspectives.
Exactly.
So as these proposals are developed and debated in the public sphere,
Yeah.
what are some of the key things we should be looking for?
I think it's crucial to pay attention to the specifics of the proposed changes.
Okay.
Like, how will the government address the backlog of asylum claims?
Right.
What criteria will be used
Mhm.
to determine the legitimacy of those claims?
Right.
Will there be adequate safeguards in place
Yeah.
to protect vulnerable individuals from being unjustly denied entry or deported?
Those are all really important questions.
They are all critical questions that need to be carefully considered.
It sounds like there's a lot at stake.
There is.
Mm-hmm.
These proposed reforms, they could have a profound impact
Yeah.
on the lives of countless individuals,
Right.
as well as on the future of Canada as a nation.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
What can individuals do to engage in this conversation?
There are many ways to get involved.
Okay.
First and foremost, stay informed about the proposed changes and the ongoing debates.
So do your research.
Yeah. Reach out to your elected officials.
Mhm.
Share your concerns and perspectives.
Make your voice heard.
Exactly. Participate in community discussions and forums on immigration.
Okay.
Support organizations that advocate for the rights of immigrants and refugees.
So it's about staying informed,
Yes.
engaging in dialogue,
Yeah.
and advocating for what we believe in.
Precisely.
Yeah.
This is about shaping the future of our country.
Yeah.
And it's a responsibility we all share.
Absolutely.
We need to move beyond simplistic narratives
Right.
and embrace the complexity of immigration,
Okay.
recognizing both the challenges and the opportunities it presents.
Yeah.
We need to find solutions that are both practical and compassionate,
That makes a lot of sense.
balancing our economic needs with our humanitarian obligations.
It's clear that these proposed changes are part of a much larger conversation
Yeah,
about Canadian identity, our values, and our vision for the future.
These reforms aren't just about tweaking a few policies.
Right.
They're about defining who we are as a nation
Yeah.
and how we want to engage with the world.
Right.
They force us to confront fundamental questions
Mhm.
about belonging, inclusivity, and the meaning of citizenship in the 21st century.
Yeah.
It's a challenging conversation,
It is.
but it's an essential one to have.
Yeah, it does feel like we're at a real crossroads here. We've got this, undeniable need to address the strain on the system, but at the same time, we can't lose sight of the human cost of these changes.
Right.
How do we reconcile those two things?
It's a really delicate balancing act,
Yeah.
and finding a solution that actually works. It's
Yeah.
going to require a nuanced approach.
Yeah,
There's no quick fix here.
right.
I think one of the key things is to really foster a thoughtful and compassionate dialogue, one that takes all perspectives into account.
Yeah, get everybody to the table.
Exactly. We need to move beyond those kind of polarized debates.
Right, just shouting at each other.
Yeah, and really engage in, meaningful conversations that acknowledge how complex this issue really is.
Right, because it's not black and white.
Not at all.
And that's where you come in, dear listener. We've unpacked a lot of information today.
We have.
But ultimately, it's up to each of us to form our own opinions and engage in this crucial conversation.
Absolutely. As we move forward, it's really important to stay informed,
Yeah.
ask questions,
Yeah.
challenge assumptions.
Don't just take things at face value.
Exactly. We can't afford to be passive observers in this debate.
Right. This is about our future.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
about shaping the future of our country.
And it's a responsibility we all share.
Absolutely.
So, as Miller gets ready to, reveal the specifics of his proposed reforms, what should we be looking for?
Well, I think it's really important to examine how those reforms address the root causes of that backlog in asylum claims.
Okay, so get to the heart of the issue.
Yeah. Will there be measures to streamline that processing system? What resources will be allocated to make sure that those adjudications are timely and fair?
Right, because that's crucial.
It is. And we also need to look at the potential impact
Yeah.
on different groups of immigrants.
Right, like how will it affect different people differently?
Exactly. Will certain categories of applicants face more scrutiny or restrictions?
Okay.
Will there be adequate provisions to protect vulnerable individuals?
Right, like those fleeing persecution.
Exactly. These are all questions we need to be asking as these proposals come out.
So yeah, a lot to consider.
A lot to consider. This is a complex issue
Yeah.
with implications that reach far and wide.
But I'm optimistic. I think through open and honest dialogue,
Yeah.
we can find solutions that uphold our values of fairness, compassion, and inclusivity,
Right.
while also addressing those concerns about managing our immigration system effectively.
Totally. It's about finding that balance.
We've covered a lot of ground today in this deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
Exploring these proposed changes to Canada's immigration and asylum system. We've looked at the context, the potential impacts, the different perspectives on this really complex issue.
It's been a great discussion.
But as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Okay.
How do you think Canada should balance those things? National security, humanitarian concerns,
Right.
and the value of citizenship as we shape our future immigration policy?
It's a tough question.
It is. It's a multifaceted question.
It is.
With no easy answers.
No.
But it's one that deserves our careful consideration.
It really does. It's a question that forces us to think about our values, our priorities, our vision for the future of this country.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this conversation has given you some valuable insights
I hope so.
and encouraged you to engage in this important national dialogue.
That's what it's all about.